Hello, can you guys hear me? Hi Divya. Okay, so welcome back to the stream. I'm just making sure everything is fine. Okay, so hello guys. Today we are in back to our Spring Boot project, the task tracker project, and this is part 2, and we are also doing milestone 2. Okay, so yesterday we did part 1, right? The backend project setup with scaffolding, entity design, and database connection. Today we'll be doing milestone 2, okay, the REST endpoints creation and testing. Fine. So where do we start? Let's do a small recap of what we did so far, or like what we are going to do first of all. So this to do kind of application is what we are going to try. Okay, so this is what we are going to implement, and we are going to do that using Spring Boot and REST. Okay, sorry, Spring Boot and React.js. Okay, and you can see in the full screen video there is a list of items that we are going to do, or you can even go to the video, stream video description, and you will see the GitHub project link. You can open that and find the milestones that are planned. Okay, so we'll create a backend project, we'll create a front-end project, and then we'll containerize it and deploy it to Google Cloud Run, and GitHub pages. Okay, the backend Google Cloud Run, and the front end in GitHub pages. Okay, that's the final target. Okay, so yesterday we did milestone 1 with the Spring Boot setup. We set it up using the Spring initializer, and we added the entities that are needed. So where is it? So inside the model we added the task model, and inside types we added the priority and status types. Okay, so the task is the main entity, the database entity, or like the database table, and it has all these columns that we added, and the status is like the types of status that can be applicable for a task entity, and priority is the types of priority items that can be applicable for a task entity. Okay, and after that what we did, we created a database. We went into our pom.xml and added a few dependencies like h2 database and JPA. Where is JPA? So Spring Boot starter data JPA we added, and then when we started our server, let me start it again now also. When we started our server and went to localhost 8080 / h2 console, we were able to see that our database was up, right? So host h2 console. Okay, so in here when we tried connection, we saw that our task table is also ready. Okay, so this is all we did yesterday. With this we completed yesterday's part. So today we are going to do REST endpoints. Okay, so this GitHub page, right, it already has what all REST endpoints need to be designed. Fine, so if you keep scrolling down, there is this section called API endpoints. Okay, so we are going to create the following API endpoints. So there is a post endpoint, there is a get endpoint, then there is a put endpoint, and then there is patch endpoint and delete endpoint. Okay, so how many? 5 endpoints are there. Okay, so we are going to create all these 5 endpoints, and there is one more get for all the tasks. So the first get was for a single task, then we have a get all tasks as well. Okay, so we'll create this one by one. Okay, so let's start. So to create any API endpoints like REST endpoints, right? Hi Abhi, welcome to the stream. Okay, so to create any REST endpoint, what we need in Spring Boot is a controller. Okay, so how to create a controller? Let me go here to our project and create a new Java class. Okay, and let me call it what do I call it, task controller, okay, because we are exposing endpoints for the task, okay, and I'll put it into a package called dot controller, okay. So this is the first controller that we are creating. I'll click finish. So what this controller will be is, it is a REST controller, okay. I'll explain what that is. Okay, so this is a REST controller. REST controller is a Spring Framework annotation, and it is related to the web package. Okay, so what this controller annotation marks it as is, this class has REST endpoints. Okay, so that is what this REST controller marks this class as. Okay, now inside this REST controller, we can have multiple options. For example, so we saw, right, the post or the get or the delete and things like that. Okay, so we'll have them. Okay, so let's start with creating the post API. Okay, so the first thing is a post mapping. So for that, we need something called as post mapping. Okay, and inside this, I'll say public. So one more thing, let me go a little bit down. So it says here, right, so return 201 with location header and created resource. Okay, so we will have to return these two, which means the created resource will be a task object itself, right? So the return type should also be the task. Okay, so I'll say task and then create task. So it doesn't matter what name you are giving to the function itself. Okay, let me import the task. It's going to be Fastorial to do model task. Okay, so what we'll do here is I'll just simply return new task. Okay, I'll not do anything. Actually, we have to implement all these things. So to do, I'll write create a new task and persist into the DB. Okay, I'll simply write like this. Fine. So we are supposed to write the body to create the task, but for now I'll just write this much, just so that the errors go away, and I'll keep it like this. Okay, so now we have designed our first control, which is first mapping, which is post mapping. We have to also do one more thing for saying that this should be available at /API/tasks. Okay, so if we go back here, I have to say here that if anybody calls API tasks, then control S, then it should go into the create task post method. Okay, so that is the concept. This is where you say the path. Okay, so what else? Let me read the description. So it says create a task, validate title, and then status should be in one of these, priority should be in one of these, and due date should be greater than equal to today, return 201 with location header. Okay, so this is all that they are saying. And then in to do, they are saying implement DTOs and validation annotations, and implement request, implement controller post endpoint with @valid. And what are they saying? Return 201 with location header and create a resource. So one thing I notice here is they are saying to create a new DTO. So what is a DTO? I think DTO means data transfer object. DTO meaning, so yeah, DTO stands for data transfer object. Okay, so what is the use of it? It is a simple object that is used to transfer data between different layers, subsystems, or processes within an application, most commonly between a server and a client. So this is what we want. Okay, so such as in API server services, whenever we write a API, we have to make a DTO for it. Okay, so what we have currently, this task object, or like this task, is an entity. Okay, so we have to create a DTO also for our task controller. So let's create that. So I was under the impression that I'll just simply use the entity, but they are asking to create a DTO object. So let's do that. So let me create a new class and call it task request, and I'll put it into the .dto package. Okay, fine. So the DTO is also going to have everything that the task has, right? Because it's going to have all these fields. So I don't know if we have to do anything extra for a DTO. Okay, so let's see what how a DTO is different from an entity, right? So if you see here, they gave an example of a user DTO, and I see that they simply mentioned the fields in it and the getter and setter, right? So let me ask, can I reuse entity object, entity class as the DTO, or should I explicitly create a new DTO class? So it is technically possible to reuse an entity class as DTO, but generally it is generally considered as bad practice. Okay, so you can do that, use the entity itself as DTO, but apparently it's bad practice. So what should we do? Explicitly creating separate DTO classes is the recommended approach. Here are the key reasons. So why not reuse entity as DTO? Separation of concerns. Entity represent database schema, right? And persistence layer. DTOs represent data transfer objects for API communication. Mixing them couples your API to your database schema tightly. Okay, security. Entities often contain sensitive or internal only fields like password hashes. Exposing entities risks leaking such data unintentionally. And then you have data shape control. DTOs let you customize what data is sent or received, including renaming fields, excluding unnecessary data, or combining multiple entities data. Entities don't provide that flexibility. So what they're saying is an entity is like a full-on representation of a database table, right? So whatever is there here, with the ID created a description, all of this is the entity, but a DTO is like the representation of just the request that you are passing to the server. So you might maybe not need some things, like for example, when I create a new entity, right, I don't need to pass created at, because that happens on the server. If I pass a created at also, it shouldn't be taken as created at, right? Because I could create today and I might say that I created yesterday itself. That's not truth, right? So you shouldn't be sending it from your request. It should be on the server side. So if I were to use an entity, I cannot control that. I cannot say that created at should not be passed because it's there in it. So apparently you should always use a DTO. Okay, so let's do that. Now here I will call this as task creation request. Okay, fine, because during creation we don't need some items. So I will copy all of these fields. Okay, I'll paste here, and I don't need created at and updated at field, right? I don't need these two. These two should be automatically populated by the service layer. Fine. So I don't need ID also, right? Because ID is auto-generated. I need not pass that also. So all I have to get from the creation request is the title, description, status. Status also, by default, the new item should have, new status, right? After you create it only, you can set the status. So should we give status? I'll probably, I'll keep status. Okay, I'll keep status, and then priority, and then finally the due date. Okay, so due date you can get it from the user, so I'll mark that as a valid field. Okay, so with this let me go to source, and then if I scroll down, I have generate getters and setters. I click on that, and I will select all of the fields. Okay, select all fields, and then I will generate them. Okay, so I have created all the getters and setters. So as I said yesterday, any POJO, plain old Java object, needs to expose all getters and setters. Okay, only then any request or any item that is acting upon it will be able to get or set data. Fine. So yeah, we finished all of that. Now let's go back to our create task. So in the create task, I will send a task creation request. I'll call it task request. Okay, so I'll be getting this object. Okay, and where will I be getting this? Okay, so post methods have something called as the request body. So I'll be getting it in the request body. So I'll mark this as request body. Okay, so I'll explain what this body is when we get into like testing, right? Or at that point we'll be seeing what a request body is, a request header is, all of these things we'll see. Okay, fine. So that is done, and then there was something else. So implement DTO, this part is done. Okay, and validation annotation. So I don't know what this is. So they say something called at valid. I don't know what this annotation is. So what is this? So I'll just ask Perplexity how to implement controller post endpoint with at the valid annotation. Okay. So to implement a post endpoint in a Spring Boot controller using @valid for input validation, follow the steps. Define request DTO. Okay, I defined it. Use validation annotation from java.validation.constraints. Okay. So you can mark items like, something should not be blank, password should be minimum, 6 characters. This is nice. So I thought that we have to, what do you say, manually, get each field and do validations, like do email if email is a valid email, or like if password is a valid password, if due date is a valid date, all this stuff. But apparently there is already helper functions that do this. This is interesting. I never knew about this. Okay, so it's in the javax.validation package. Okay, so let's keep reading. So create controller with post endpoint using @valid. In the controller class, annotate the request body parameter with @valid and using request body. Okay, so where do I do that? So I have to, if I put this @valid in the request body, then apparently it automatically looks for validation, right? This validation. I keep going, handle validation errors, optional but recommended. So Spring Boot automatically returns a 400 bad request response with error details if validation fails. You can customize this by defining a global exception handler. So global exception handlers is one of the future parts anyway. So if you if you look at the curriculum which we have planned, global error handling comes like in the last part, or the second last part. So at that point we will do this. Okay, so we'll just ignore this whole thing. Okay, and let's do this validation. Okay, so let's start with this not blank item. Okay, so I'll go to the DTO, and let's say that title should not be blank. Okay, import it. No, input doesn't happen. Oh, apparently it's not there. Let me see. Not blank is not available in Spring Boot. They're asking. Oh, okay, they're asking to add this dependency called as Spring Boot starter validation. Okay, so let's add this dependency. Let me go to pom.xml, and under dependency, I'll add the Spring Boot starter validation dependency. Okay, so now it should be able to bring it. Let me see. Yeah, it brought it. Okay, and I'll say that title is mandatory for task. Okay, and description is not mandatory. I'll ignore that. And status is mandatory, so I'll declare that. Status is mandatory. Priority is mandatory. And due date is also, let's keep it mandatory. Okay, and due date, we should also validate that due date is something greater than today, right? Or like the current time. It could be like today evening, but it can't be like today morning, right? Because now it's noon time. Fine, so I don't know how to do that, so let me check that. How do I validate? Do I add validation to make sure that it is greater than current time. Okay, so to validate timestamp field like due date to ensure it is greater than the current time in Springboard, you can use a custom validation annotation because standard bean validation annotation do not provide this out of box. Okay. So let's see what they have written. Okay, this is totally, going out of our syllabus. So I will ignore it, okay? Because this is like how to write a custom validator class. So what I'll do is I'll mark this as to do, okay? And say that this will be done sometime later, okay? This needs a custom validator, will be done sometime later when doing, let me enable word wrap, when doing what, global validation, okay? Fine. So I think this validation is enough. Let's go back again to the description. So this valid is, oh, I have to mark this as valid, right? In the controller, I have to mark this as valid, @valid. Okay, fine. So I mark that also as valid. Let me go back. So return 201 with location header and created resource, right? So for now, what I'll do is I'll return 201, but then I'll return whatever input is coming. I'll simply return it back, okay? Just to make sure that our request is coming properly. Fine. So what I'll do is return. Let me delete this. Response entity, okay, dot status. They said 201, right? 201 dot body. I'll return the task request itself, okay? And this will say that the return type is mismatching, so I'll change it to response entity and then @valid task creation request, okay? Okay, so with this, you see we still didn't create or persist the task into the database, okay? All we are doing is we are getting a task via post request and we are simply returning it back to the whoever the client made that request, okay? So we are not doing anything fancy here. We are simply taking and returning it back. But one more thing they said is to the location of the new request. So for dot location, sorry, location new URI of, for now I will just mark this as to be, hey, why is this not working? Oh, unhandled exception, I'll just add throws declaration, okay? For now I'll just ignore the unhandled exceptions. So you see they said with the location header of the new item, okay? But the new item's ID we don't know yet, okay? So for now I'll just say /task/new ID, okay? So when we actually implement and persist into the DB, we will make sure that this is replaced with the actual ID, okay? Fine. So why I did this so simply now is let's test and see whether this much is working at least, okay? So let me restart the server. Yes, my console. Did it start? Let me try again. Right, it started. Okay, so what I'll do now, I will use a HTTP client, okay? So for testing any HTTP request, you need some kind of HTTP client, okay? There are some tools like Postman available on the World Wide Web or like in the internet, with which you can test HTTP requests. What I will do is I will use something called Bruno, okay? Bruno is also a HTTP client. So I think I have Bruno in this system. Yeah, I have it. Okay, so inside Bruno, let me pull, yeah. So inside Bruno, I'll create a collection. Okay, so this is kind of going into Bruno. This is not strictly Spring Boot stuff, but this is how you use Bruno, or like most of the HTTP clients work in the same way. Okay, so I'll call this as task what do you say, tracker backend, or like I'll just say, yeah, backend, okay. And location, I'll put it somewhere inside the source code itself. Okay, so codes, where is codes, come on, codes, task tracker project. I'll create a new folder for Bruno, okay, and then inside that I'll put it, okay, create. Now inside this I'll create a new request, and that will be a post request, okay, and that will be pointing to http localhost 8080, and that was API/task, right? I hope that's correct. Let me go back and see. Yeah, so it's API/tasks, okay, tasks, and I'll call this create new task, okay, create. I will switch to developer mode because I am the developer, okay, so I know how this works. So let me click save. Okay, so now I have created the a request structure for the tasks, okay. Now I can fire this as well, but this will throw error. Yeah, so if you see here, if I fire it, it immediately throw an error saying unsupported media type. I think that's happening because I should mark this as application/JSON. So let me do that. Content type. How do I? Here it is. Content type application/JSON. Okay. Let me try running this. Yeah. Okay. So I got application/JSON, but then you see now the error changed to bad request. Okay, so let's go back and see what happened. So if you see here, where is the error? Okay, let me clear this console and do it again. Clear console. Let me fire the request again. Okay, if I see the error, required request body is missing public. Okay, I don't know what that is, but anyway, I think it's saying that there is no request body at all. Okay, so we have to now add the request body. Now how does the request body looks like? There is a sample request body they gave here already, so it looks like this. Okay, so let me copy this and let me go to Bruno, and in the body I will create a JSON body. Okay, and I'll paste this. Okay, so I gave a title, description, status, priority, and due date. Okay, so let me execute this and see if it works. It didn't work. Now let me see why that failed. Let me clear it and expand the console. Let me execute the request again. Okay, so what did it say? No validator could be found for constraint while validating type due date. Okay, so apparently the validator could not validate timestamp kind of fields. It could validate only string, I guess. Okay, so let me remove that annotation on it because we have plans to add a custom validator for timestamp anyway, right? So what I'll do is I'll remove the not blank validator on timestamp. Okay, I'll remove this. Okay, and restart the server. I'll clear the console, go back and fire the request. Okay, what is the error now? It says, okay, for status, for enums also apparently it couldn't figure out if things are not blank. So let me just check how to validate enums using the @valid. Okay, so how to validate enums using what do you say, Spring Boot validation. Okay, it's again a custom annotation, so I'll ignore this also. I'll mark this also as to do. Okay, so I go back to task controller. No, this one, right? Creation request. So these two enums, right, the status and priority enums. I'll remove that. I'll mark a to do saying the priority and status also needs to be done later. Okay. Okay. So let me restart the server. I'll clear the console, go back and fire the request, and you got the response. Okay. So you got the, I don't know if it's big enough for the vertical screen. Can I hide this? No, apparently not. Fine. So yeah, so you see on the left side, I gave a request. On the right side, I got the exact response back, right? And you see the status code, you got it as 201 also. Fine. And if you see in headers, the response header, you got the location also as whatever location I sent from there, like, right? Like task/new ID. Okay. So with this, we did a simple, like a smoke test of whether our post request is at least working. Okay. Fine. So what we'll do now, let me go back and see what is next here. Okay, so these are requests. So in today's milestone, we were supposed to create REST endpoint and test it, right? But for the REST endpoint to actually work, I need to also store it in the database, right? Because for now, what I did, I just, did a test of whether whatever I am sending in is being echoed back, okay? Okay, so let's do that. Fine. So in order to talk to a database, we need something called repository. Okay, so now we are going to look at repositories. So till now we looked at controllers, the REST controller, and we looked at the DTOs, right? How to create a DTO for a creation request. Next we look at repositories. Now what is a repository? A repository is a interface between your service layer and the database. Okay, now what is service layer, what is database? So when you write code, right, for example, I have to, let's say, validate whether the incoming date is greater than today. Okay, it's a simple validation I want to do. And if I have to do that validation, or if I have to even log that, okay, this new item was created and all, you are not supposed to write that in controllers. Okay, you can write, obviously, but the controllers are simply supposed to get a request and forward it to a service. Okay, so there are 3 layers here. Okay, I didn't connect my iPad. Let me just, okay, or I'll just write it here. Okay, where will I write? I'll write it here. Okay, so you have a controller, then you have a service layer, okay, and then you have a repository layer, and then you have the actual DB. Okay, in the front, what is there? In the front, you have your like client, either a browser or like tools like Bruno, Bruno. Okay, so this is how the flow goes through. Okay, so we went from Bruno and then we came to controller, which we implemented just now. Okay, and then there's a service layer which we haven't written yet, and then in the end there is a repository layer, and then we have our actual DB, right? Whatever DB which we created yesterday. So this is how the flow should be, and this is like the standard flow for the Springboard project. Okay, so we have implemented the controller part. Okay, this is done. How do I mark it? So I'll mark it as star. Okay, controller is done. Next we have to write a service layer and a repository. So let's start with the service layer, repository layer. Okay, so let me go back to our package and I'll create a new repository class. Okay, so I'll call it, I'll add it to the package called repo, and I'll call it task repo. Okay, and click finish. And how do you create a repo? So repository classes, actually implement, is it implement or extend? I don't know. Let me see. Implements. No, it is extends only. So I think it's a class only. No? Oh, did I spell it wrong? CRUD. So it was implemented. Yeah. Right. So what do you say? whenever you mention a repository, right? So it should implement one of the types of repository. Okay, there are multiple types of repository. Let me open this. If I open this repository and look at its implementations, okay, so if you see here, there are multiple types of repository. There is a CRUD repository, there's a paging and sorting repository, then there's a reactive CRUD, reactive sorting, revision, RxJava, something like this. There is even like specifically to Mongo repository or Cassandra repository. There are specific implementations. Okay, so we are going to take one of the most basic repositories called as CRUD repository. Now, what is a CRUD repository? A CRUD repository can do all four major operations. So CRUD in CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. Okay, so you can create an item, you can read existing items, you can update existing items, or you can delete existing items. So that is what CRUD stands for. Okay, so we are going to create a CRUD kind of repository. Okay, and it takes in two type arguments. Okay, the first type is what is the actual entity object. Okay, so our entity object is task, and what is the ID type of the task. Okay, so if I go to my task entity, my ID is long, right? So I have to simply write there it is long ID. Okay, let me import it. I'll import my task entity. Okay, fine. And why does this error out? Okay, it's saying that I have to implement find all by ID. I don't know why this is coming. It's not supposed to show this. Is it because I'm just checking if it's because it's ID. Okay. I have not seen this error before. I mean, all you have to do is add unimplemented method. Oh, all of these are unimplemented. Okay. So what is wrong? Let me check. Okay, so is this the right way to define a repo? No, the syntax is not right. To use CRUD, you should define a repository interface that... Okay, I got it. So the task repo itself should be an interface. It shouldn't be a class. Okay, so that was the mistake I made. So this itself should be an interface. And interface should, since CRUD repository is also an interface, you should say extends. Okay, so when an interface extends another interface, it's called extending. Okay, fine. So with that, we have completed creation of the repository. Okay, it's so simple. Okay, now you'll see the actual power of Spring Boot after this, right? What I'll do next is, so if I see here, so controller is done, repository is done, right? I'll mark this also as done. Okay, now the next thing left is, so DB we did yesterday itself, Bruno we have already, so I'll mark those also as done. So the only missing piece now is the service. So service is the bridge between a controller and a repository, right? So let's create that as well. So I'll create new service, and I'll call it and add it to the package service and call it task service. Okay, let me create it. Okay, and inside this task service, first thing I'll do is I'll mark this as a service class. Okay, so there is this @service annotation which marks any class as service class. Okay, and in there I'll create just one function for creating something. Okay, so what I'll do is public task. Okay, I'll return a task, and what will be create task. Okay, and inside this I'll say task creation request. Okay, request. Fine. Let me import the missing items. So this is where you are going to create the task. Okay, so I will create. So now to create a task, I need the repository. Okay, so I have to inject the repository into the task service. So I'll say public task service, task repo. Okay, so there should be also a task repo inside this class itself. Let me call it task repo. Okay, so I'll make this dot repo equals repo. So the point of doing this whole block is Spring Boot takes care of dependency injection, right? So when the container starts up, I am not going to create a new task repo item and inject it into my bean, into my service. Okay, so I will say Spring Boot you itself take care of doing all that stuff. So okay, so I'll just say that I need a task repo. So Spring Boot will somehow figure out where the task repo is and take it and inject it into my this bean. Okay, so I'll have repo. Okay, then inside repo I'll do repo dot, and is there a, how do I create? It's a save, right? So save. So save is what actually creates something. So I'll create a new task, and let me define the task here now. Task equals new task. Okay, now I'll set the okay, after saving it, once I save it, I'll get a saved task, and I'll return this task. Okay, fine. So in between I have to just fill data into this task item. Okay, so I get all the required item, like what is the title, description, and all of the task, right? So I have to fill it here. So I'll do task dot set title, right, as request dot get title. Okay, then I'll say task dot set description as request dot get description. Then task dot get set, what else is there, priority, right? Priority as request dot get priority. Then there is task dot set status as request dot get status. Okay, so these are the 4 main items, right? Let me just check Bruno once. Due date is there, so I'll say task dot set due date as request dot get due date. Okay, so these are all the items that come from the request itself. Now there are some more items that should be predefined, pre-filled inside, right? Like the creation date and the update date. Okay, so for that what I'll do is task dot set created at as I should give the now time, right? So I don't know if we can do new timestamp. There is new time, there's a function called new timestamp of long time. Okay, so I can give like a long value of the timestamp. So for that what I'll do is, you do system dot current time in millis, it will give the current time in timestamp form, I mean in long format. I can create a new item like this. Okay, so this will be the created at, because it is created whenever I'm invoking this, right? So I'll do that, and then I'll do task dot set updated at also as the current time. Okay, timestamp, and then say system dot current time in millis. Okay, fine. So this is all kind of boilerplate. We have to write all this. I don't know if there is an easier way to do this. We'll check that also. Okay, so with this, the whole business logic is done. So this was the whole point of creating this service layer. Okay, so I said, right, you can obviously take all of that was written there and put it here inside this body itself, but that is not how you should do it, because things should not be tightly coupled. So when you write things in a service layer, things will be loosely coupled, right? Which means it will be easier to maintain this code later on in the future. Okay, so with that I have implemented the whole body for create task. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me go back to task controller and let me call that. Okay, so here also I need the task service now. Okay, so task service I need now. I'll call it SVC, and I'll inject it. Okay, so public task controller of task service SVC. Okay, I'll do this dot SVC equal to SVC. Okay, fine. So the task service is injected into the controller now. Maybe constructor. Constructor for what? I didn't understand. Okay, I don't see reply after that. Fine, so I'll continue with this. You can respond meanwhile. Okay, so now let's do the service calling. Okay, so to create the actual task out of the request, I'll do svc dot create task and pass the task request that we got from the client, like for Bruno, for example. So once I do this, I'll get a created task. Okay, so the response of this create task will be the actual new database entity, okay, that is going to get created. So I'll copy this and then I'll pass this in the response body. Okay, so this method signature will also change. So the method return type will change to response entity of task. Okay, and here I said, right, new ID. So instead of new ID, it will be plus create a task dot get ID. Okay, fine. So with this, the task creation controller is completely done. Okay, so instead of setters, we can pass params to constructor itself. No, correct. So what I understand what you're asking. So in task service, we did all of this, right? Instead, you are asking, can we, simply do new task of then pass the title, description, priority, all this. So we can do that. That is one nice idea. But there is one more nice idea. What you can do is, in the task, where is this task creation request, right? You can simply write one function like a helper function. Okay, so maybe like public task, and then you can call it build from task creation request. Okay, so here you call pass the task creation request. Okay, and call it Rick. Okay, and I'll make this a static function so that anybody can call it. Okay, and in here, I mean, this is kind of like a shorter way to do it. Okay, I mean shorter. No, it's called like a a maintainable way to do it. You can use this anywhere also. Okay, so I'll paste that whole content here. Okay, and I'll return the task. So whatever I was building there, right, I built it here instead. Okay, now what I'll do in task services, I'll simply do task incoming task equals this one, task creation request dot build from task creation request, and I'll pass the request inside. Okay, so with this, what we are doing is we got the incoming task, the whole thing injected into the task object. So we are kind of doing a conversion from task creation request into a task. Okay, so the whole body of that is inside this task creation request class itself. Okay, so I'm mentioning builder. Yeah, so this is kind of a builder which we made. Okay, this is like a helper class. So this is, so if you see conceptually, like programmatically, we didn't change anything. So this is lightweight on the service layer. Correct, exactly. So the service layer doesn't look very cluttered. We are keeping things to itself. So everything related to converting a task creation request to task, we kept it in the task creation request class itself instead of cluttering the service layer. Right. Good, that's a good optimization. Okay, fine. So we build an incoming task and we create the save it into the repository and return the saved task. Now in the controller, we are calling the service layer and saying create a task, and then we are getting the create a task and responding it to the final out. Okay, fine. So let me restart the server now. Okay, let me clear this console and let me fire the request again, and it failed. Let me see why it failed. Okay, so it said task must be manually assigned. What should be manually assigned? Request processing failed. Identifier of the task entity must be manually assigned before calling persist. Okay, so it says here identifier, right? Identifier is nothing but the ID. So what is happening here is, if I go to this build, right? So inside what I'm saying, I'm setting the title, setting the description, priority and all, but I didn't set one of the important thing, task.set ID. I didn't set this ID value, right? So because of this, it's throwing that error. Now I don't want me to create the ID. I want the database itself to take care of ID creation automatically. Okay, so I have to say that in my entity class. So if I go to my task entity, here I should say that it should generate the ID. Okay, so there is a annotation for that. If I remember, it's generated, I guess. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. And then you should give strategy, I think. No, I don't know what to give here. No, I don't think this is the one. Let me simply check it out. Okay, so how do I mark this to auto generate the ID? Okay, it's generated value, not just at generated. So at the rate generated value, and then you should say the strategy is generation type dot identity. Okay, so identity uses an auto increment column, and it will actually give you the new numbers like 1, 2, 3 and all. Try within at the rate ID. Okay, no, so at the rate ID, no, it's a separate annotation. I think you just I think the stream there is a lag. Okay, fine. So at generate, I'll just copy paste this. So generated value, and then strategy is generation type dot identity. Okay. Okay. So now with this, we are saying to MySQL that you should always generate the ID yourself. Fine. That I won't give the ID. ID will always be null from my side. You create it yourself. Okay. So let me restart the server. I don't know if this will work out of the box. Let's see. Okay, let me run this. It didn't work. Let me see why again. So it again says null not allowed, right? So what happened is the DB is already created, right? The DB is already created and persisted. So it is trying to not generate it. So when the table gets created for the first time itself, I should say that it is going to be an auto generated value. If I don't say it in the first time, it will always fail. Okay, so I have to delete and recreate the DB. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll simply delete my data file, right? This data file, right? I'll delete it, so it will recreate a new DB. So I'll delete this, delete. Okay, I'll restart the server. Okay, it should work now. Let me try. Yeah, it worked, right? So it got created. So you understood what issue happened. Before adding this annotation, the table got already created. So if a table already exists, the JPA wouldn't try to drop the table and create it again with the new identity type. It will just keep that old table itself as it is. So I have to manually either update the DB fields or delete the table so that it will regenerate a new table with this new strategy, right? The identity strategy. Okay, so it generated that and it gave this value. So you see ID got generated automatically to 1. Okay, now if I keep firing this request 2-3 more times, you see the ID keeps changing, right? So it actually keeps incrementing the ID automatically. I need not pass an ID, I need not remember what was the last ID. None of this I have to do. It will automatically figure it out. Okay, so now how do we know that these items are in the DB? Okay, I'll go back to our H2 console. Okay, let me how do I select items? Okay, I'll click so select star from task. Okay, let me run it. Oh, it got disconnected. Let me connect again and let me run select star from task, and you see the items got generated. So you see there are 6, 7, 8 items. So I clicked fire 8 times, right? So it generated 8 items with where did the due date come from? Okay, the due date is there in the request, right? So with this due date, with this priority and the title and updated it. Okay, so with this we just completed 1 out of the 6 requests. Okay, so the remaining requests should also be pretty simple moving forward. Fine, so let's take a break. You guys probably rewind or something and see what we did so far. and come ready for the remaining requests. Okay, so how many other requests are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 requests are there. Okay, so we'll finish the remaining 5 requests after the break. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, let me know now. I'll wait for a minute. If you have questions, I'll clear it and then go for break. If not, we can go for break. Okay. Okay, I see there are no questions. So fine. So let's take a 10-minute break. Okay. And let's meet after that. Okay. See you guys. Hello. Okay, fine. Welcome back from the break. So let's start with the next item. Okay, so far we have seen create post requests. So let's do the get request. Okay, fine. So for get request, the signature is same as the post. You see, it's almost same as the post. It's like /API/tasks, but then you put the ID of the task in the end. Okay, so that is how it is. Fine. So how to do that? Let's also see what the behavior is. So it says return a task by ID or 404 if not found. Okay, so 404 is like the infamous error, probably all of us know. It means that it's not found. Okay, and to do they are saying implement controller get mapping and task service dot get by ID. Add test for 204 cases. So we are not writing test cases. If we were to we are supposed to add test cases. Okay, so we'll ignore this item. Fine. So let's start. So first we'll write first we will write a task service. Okay, because we'll go bottom up. We'll write the service layer, or we'll write, yeah, repo already has the item. We'll write the service layer and then we will write the controller layer. Okay, so let me go back and let me go to task service. So let me close items that are not needed. I'll close this. Okay, so then let's go to task service. So inside task service, we create public task get task by ID. Okay, the ID is a long value, right? So long ID. So if someone passes you an ID, you're supposed to get the task. So again, you do repo dot find by ID. Okay, so there is this function called find by ID, not find all by ID. Okay, find by ID, and inside the find by ID, you pass the ID. Okay, and once you do this, you will get the optional task. Okay, so I will pass the optional task itself. Okay, I'll return the optional task itself. So return optional task. Okay, because if it is null, we need to do some operations, right? So oops, how do I change method return type? Okay, so if it is null, I mean if the task is not found, we have to do some extra operations, right? For doing that, I'll just return the optional, because optional has the is present, so you can do extra operations if you want. Okay, so I'll go to task. I'll order this in the correct way. Okay, so I'll go to task controller now. Okay, let's put this here, and I will create a new get mapping for it. Okay, so this is called get mapping because this is going to be a get request. Oops, get mapping, something happened. Okay, get mapping, and then API tasks, and then the task ID. So I should pass it like this, I guess, if I'm right. Okay, I'll just say ID. Okay, and in this I'll say public is the same thing again, response entity of task. Okay, get task by ID, and someone passes a long ID. Okay, and in here I will call our service dot get task by ID, right? And I'll pass the ID. This will give me an optional task. Okay, optional task. And what I'll do next is, if optional task dot present, right, is present, there is an option function called is present, which means that the task is present. If it is present, I'll simply return optional task dot get. Okay, so when you do optional task dot get, it will get the value and return it. It's showing error because I said it should always return a response entity of task, right? So I'll cut this and I'll make it response entity. Okay, dot okay, okay, and inside okay you can give the value. Okay, so I'll just do this. Okay, so if it is present, I'll simply return the get value. If it is not present, okay, I'll say else, right? Else I'll say return again response entity dot status will be 404. Okay, and then body will be null. Okay, there will be no body. Fine. So this will be the response for get. Okay, and one thing missing here is, here I said that id will be a request parameter, so this is called as a request parameter. So if you see in the first one, it was a request body. So here it is because we built it in the body of the Bruno request, right? So here it will be a request parameter because it's coming as part of the request. So here I should say, so it's not even request parameter, it's path parameter, right? So I think it should be path parameter. Let me see. Path param. No. No, it's not path param. Request. Okay, then it should be request parameter. There's no example, so I'll just mark it as request parameter. Let's see if it works. Okay, let's just try it out. So I'll go to Bruno now. Let me restart this project because we just made changes. I'll go to Bruno and I'll create a new, okay, I'll duplicate this task itself, existing request, and I'll call it as get task by ID. Okay. Hey, did I just rename it? Create new task. Okay, I have to duplicate it. Where is duplicate? Clone. I'll clone it and call it get task by ID. Okay, clone, and this will be of type get, not post. Okay, this will be of type get, and this will be API tasks only. And in the end, you will give the ID, right? ID. So you can pass the ID as params here. In ID, I will mark. So if you go here to the request, what is it called, params, you can add a param called ID, and I'll put ID 1. Okay, and there is no body for this because it's a get request. Get requests don't have body. Okay, so these are kind of REST items. Okay, so as you do this exercise, you learn it on the way. Okay, so I'll say no body and I will execute this. I'm pretty sure it's going to fail. Yeah, it failed. Okay, so this is not supposed to be request param. I forgot what it is. Okay, let me see. Okay, how do I inject ID, path param ID into the method variable? Oh, it's called a path variable. Okay, it's called a path variable. I thought it was called path param, but it's called path variable. Okay, let's go back and change this to path variable. Okay, now it should work. Let me restart. Oh, you're saying something? Oh, you said path. Sorry, I just noticed. Okay, fine. So yeah, we got the task that is at ID 1. Okay, we got all the detail about it. Okay, so let's say I change it to ID 4, 3 or something. Okay, we have 8 items in the DB, so anything from 1 to 8 we should be able to get it, right? So if you see 3, when I pass 3, I'm getting the entity which is related to 3. Okay, so one more thing to note here, the right approach to path variable, thank you. So the right approach to get this response also is, or any response, I should be not sending the task as is from the DB. Remember, whenever you pass something to the controller layer, it should be a DTO object, not the entity itself, right? So I will mark it as a to do. Okay, and we will do it in the end. Okay, so to do change all task entities that are being returned to the client into DTO objects. Okay, fine. So we'll do this to do later. Okay, so in Eclipse there is this place where you can go to let me see, window, show view, and there will be tasks. Okay, so you can see all the tasks that we have to do. There are some to-dos I have written. We'll do it later. Okay, so these are not very important at the moment, so that's why I'm marking them as to-dos. When we actually optimize the code later on, we will do these things one by one, right? Like good coding practices and things like that. Okay, so with that, get mapping is done. We got the item. Okay, let's also test whether if I give an invalid input. So let's say I give ID as 30. Okay, and if I run this, it gives the expected status code of 404. Okay, and there will be no response body. The response will be empty. Okay, fine. So I'll change this back to 3 and save it and run it. Okay, fine. So get is done, and let's see what's next. Put. So put is the next one. So put, what it does is full update with validation. Updated at should be set automatically. Okay, so these are the two items they are saying. So what is the point of put? Put is needed when you want to update the whole entity. Okay, not just one variable in it, it's the whole entity. Okay, so let's say you want to update the entity's what do you say, name, description, status, all of it at once, then you need a put item. Okay, fine. So for put, if you can guess, it's called as put mapping. Just like post mapping and get mapping, you have to write something called put mapping. Okay, so it's called put mapping. And what is the endpoint they gave? It's again API/task/ID. Okay, so I will simply copy this whole thing. Copy this. Oops, what did I copy? I'll copy this, paste it, and I'll call this public. In here also I'll get the response entity and full update task by ID. Okay, this function name doesn't matter, you can write whatever you want here. Okay, and I'll pass the ID as a path variable of long ID. Okay, I'll pass this here, and it's not just ID that I have to pass. I have to also give the new item that I have typed, right? Because let's say the old task name was hello. I want to change it to hello world. Then I have to say the new value also, right? So the new value also I'll send it as a DTO. Okay, so we already have a task creation request, right? So we will now I don't know if we have to make a new task updation request. Let me see what will be different for updation. Okay, so if you want to update a task, you can update its status, you can update its priority, you can update due date obviously, and title, description. So these are all the things that you can update anyway, right? So I think I'll just go with the task creation request itself. So instead of calling this task creation request, I'll just change it to task request. Okay, so let me refactor this. Right click, refactor, rename. Okay, this is option called rename, and I'll rename this to just task request. Okay, because for any kind of task request, I mean DTO, I'll just use this object. Okay, not just for creation. So I'll go here, and along with the path variable ID, I will also accept request body. Okay, what is it called? Task request. Okay, fine. So now what will we do? We have to do a full-on update, right? So let's write the service layer first. Yeah, I should have come that way. Anyways, so let me write a new function here. Public task. Let me use the same function name. Full update task by ID, right? Full update task by ID and long ID, and then you have the task request. Okay, task request. And in here, first thing you have to do is get the existing item, right? First you have to check if there is even an item with this given ID. What if someone gives a random ID and asks it to update? There might not be that ID, right? So there is no point trying to update and stuff that doesn't even exist. Okay, so first thing what we'll do is we will check if that exists. To do that, we already have get task by ID, right? So what I'll do is I'll call that here. So I'll do optional task equals to get task by ID, and then I'll pass our ID. Okay, so you got an optional task. Now if optional task dot is empty, okay, if it's empty, then I'll simply return a 404, return null. I'll return null. Okay, no, I'll just throw an exception here. Okay, throw new exception, I'll say illegal argument exception, and I'll say no item, no task found with ID. What ID is this? Some ID. Okay, ID. Okay, so if it is empty, I'll just return this. Next, if at all it exists, okay, what I'll do task existing task equals optional task dot get. Okay, I mean, I don't even need to do this, right? Why should I do this? Yeah, this is not needed anymore. Fine, I'll ignore this. So next what I have to do is we do repo dot merge. There's no merge. Is it save, right? Save, and as a save operation might have changed the entity instance. So there is this okay, it doesn't say it here. Fine. Okay, so I'll just do repo.save, and I will pass the request that came in, but the request is a task request. I should convert it into a task. So for that we wrote that helper function, right? So I'll call that task request dot build from task creation, and here I'll get task new task, or like not new task, updated task. Okay, and I will send this in the save function. Okay, so save again gives us a saved task, and I'll return this to the caller. Okay, fine. So with that we have completed the full update. So what we did first we are checking whether it even exists. So I'll write it here. First check if the if a task exists for the given ID. Okay, then what we do, if it exists, update it. Okay, so we did that also. Fine. With that, full update is done. Now let me go back here, and then I will do repo dot service dot where is it, fully update task by ID, and then you pass the ID and the request and do this, and this is supposed to give you the new updated item, right? Updated task. Okay, and you just say return response entity dot okay, and then you pass the body, which is the save task. Okay, sorry, updated task. Okay, so with this we are done, but one thing is missing here. So if you remember, here we said that if a task doesn't exist, where is that part? If a task doesn't exist, we are throwing an illegal argument exception, right? So when that happens, we should also throw a 404 on the server side. So here I will do a try catch. Okay, and you'll catch the illegal argument exception. Okay, EX, and when an illegal argument exception happens, I'll just do return response entity dot status 404. Okay, dot body, I'll just return null body. Okay, so when I do this, it will just return 404 if a task with that ID doesn't exist. Okay, just a second. Okay, fine. So let's test this up. Okay, so let me restart the server and go back to our Bruno, and I'll say clone this, and I'll say fully update existing task. Okay, fine. And this is supposed to be of type put. Okay, and the method signature, or like the request signature, is the same, right? So API task and then the ID. Okay, so I'm going to update task number 3, and put request should have body, because that is what is going to say what the update is going to be, right? So I'll go to body, and I'll say the body is a JSON body. Where is it? JSON body, and it's the same thing. What I'll change is for ID number, what is this ID? 3. For ID number 3, I will change the status to high. Okay, I'll change the status to high. Let's try that, and I'll fire the request. Okay, so it said that the priority changed to high. We'll also make sure that it changed to high. Okay. I just realized one more thing. Along with changing the priority, or like whatever other fields, we should also change the updated time. Remember, because updated time is not the creation time anymore. Updated time is when I actually fired the request and updated it, right? So that one change, let's do that also. Okay, so if I go back to here, in the updated task, okay, or it's not updated task, it's like to update task. Okay, to update task. Okay, I'll also set updated time as new timestamp of system.current time in millis. Okay, so it says that you have to update the time as well. Someone is here. Sudhindra. Hi Sudhindra. Okay, so we have to update the time as well. So now only we are doing the actual update, because if we didn't update the time, it's a inconsistency, right? Fine. So let me restart it. Okay. Right, the server is restarted. Let me fire the let me set this to low. Okay, I'll set this to low. Let me fire the request. So it says that it updated at the old time only, 11:34:73. Okay, so this is something we have to figure out. Okay, so let me at least see if the thing changed in get. Okay, so let me go to get, and I'll get ID number 3. Okay, so initially it was medium, right? It should change now to low. No, it didn't change to low. See, it's still at medium only. So let's see why that didn't happen. Hey, why is this saying ID 10? Okay, something is wrong. So it's supposed to be ID 3, right? Oh, it's creating new items. Okay, so instead of updating ID 3, it created new item called ID 11 or like ID 10. Okay, so that is not supposed to happen. So let's see what is going on. So I think it should not be saved here. It should be merged. That's what I tried to do, but what else is there here? So I'm looking at other functions available. Okay. It's probably because I didn't set the ID on the item, right? So I should also set ID. Maybe then it will work. So in to update task, I'll also do dot set ID as whatever ID is incoming. Okay, let's see now. It should work. Let me restart. Okay, and let me go back and update ID number 3. Run this. Yeah, Okay, so now ID number 3 got updated. Okay, you can see ID 3 got updated, and if you see the created time is 11:36, the updated time is also 11:36. This is again wrong. Fine, let me get the ID and see. Okay, it got priority got updated to low, but the updated at didn't change. Okay, what could be the reason? Okay, let's see. Let's ask our ChatGPT. This doesn't update the timestamp. Why? Not why. It's not reflecting after report or save slightly due to one or more file. Entity cache, okay. The updated at field might be mapped as insertable only, not updatable in JPA. Missing the correct column mapping. Managed automatically by database or trigger which overdues. Okay, transaction handling issue. Oh, is it saying that? Okay, so so here I am setting. Okay, so this is the issue. Got it. So in build task, build from task creation request, what I'm doing is I'm setting both the created and updated as the same time, right? That shouldn't be the case. So I should do that only outside. So what I'll do is I'll cut this whole thing, okay? And I will go back to my service. So nice, we are finding new bugs. So if I go here, this one, right? So I should set it here for when I create a new item, right? When I create a new task, I should set the created and updated at here, okay? Along with the other details also. But when I am updating a task, I should just set the updated at, okay? So this should be working fine. Let me restart it. Okay, I'll go back and I'll go here. If I update it now, okay, right, where is it? Created at is null. Okay, so remember how I said that it will fully update the whole entity, not just part of it. So if I didn't give a field, it will automatically ignore it, right? It won't keep the old value as it is. So in this case, when I do build from task creation request, right, I am building all of these items, but I didn't build the creation and updation time, right? So for completeness sake, I have to add this also here. So set created at as request dot get created at. Hey, this doesn't have a created at, so I can't do this. Okay, so not here. I have to do it in the service only. So here, say to update task dot set created at as whatever item we found here, right? Optional task. Okay, so we need that value. Get. So this is the old task. Okay, this will be the new task. I'll just call it like that, new task. Fine. So old task dot get created at. Okay, so we are just passing down the created at from the old task into the new update. So that should never change. So it should be always maintained. And for updated at, we are just passing the current time. Okay, fine. So let me restart it now again. And let me go back and let me do it for task number 4. Okay, run this. Okay, so if you see, task number 4 was created at 10:58 and it was updated at 11:41 and it got this priority set to low. Okay, so let me also get task 4 and see now. 4, run it, and priority is low. It was created at 10:58 and it was updated at 11:40. Okay, so now we did a full-on update. Okay, everything is working fine. Okay, let me save all this and let me get back. Okay, so with that, put is done. So I'll just okay, there's some work going on here. If it's disturbing, just let me know. Okay, so I'll just explain what we did for the full update task. Okay, so we have to first of all check if an existing task is there with the given ID. Okay, so once we find that, we have to see if it's empty or not, as in if it is really existing or not. If it is not, then we simply say no task found with ID and then give the ID. If it exists, we just take that for reference and keep it safe. Okay, the old task, and the new task we should build from the request that came in, right? The request is like in Bruno body, we where is it? Input Bruno body, we built a request, right? So based on this, you create a new task. Okay, and create a new task as in you build a new task. You didn't persist it, you didn't push it to the DB. Then for the new task, you should update the ID as the old task ID. Okay, only then the JPA layer will know that we are looking at the same entity. Otherwise, it will create a new entity again. Okay, so you should make sure that the identifier is set properly. Then for the new task, you should migrate the old value, which need to be persisted as it is. For example, created as should be persisted as it is, right? So this whole section, right, these two, migrate values from old task, all old entity to new. Okay, so just for making it look clearer, I'll just say get ID. Okay, so you have to pass the old task ID to the new task. You have to pass the old task created time to the new task, because these are constant and it should be passed as it is. Okay, you shouldn't modify it. Okay, then you should make sure of modify, like update time metadata. Okay, so what is the time metadata? That somebody updated this entity now. So when you say system.current time is, it gives the now time. So you're saying that it was updated now. Okay, now the new task has all the values filled. You just say save task is repo.save new task. Okay, so now even now you have to remember that let's say I didn't give description, for example. Okay, if I remove description part, I'll cut this. Okay, and if I submit this, description will become null automatically, right? Because we didn't pass description from the old value into the new value. So if item is not found, it will simply set it as null. Okay, so that is the whole thing. So I'll undo that, and if I run it again, it will bring back the description. Okay, the updated time keeps changing. Fine, so with that, put is done. Okay, and let's move to the next item. There is the next item, patch, right? So patch is also going to be like put, but the only thing is you are going to specify what item you are going to change, right? So for example, you have to change only the status, right? So let's say I want to change only the status of ID number, what do you say, is this 4? Yeah, ID number 4. Let's say I want to change it from to do to done, like that done is done. The task is done. I want to say that. Okay, so what is the if you had only the put operation, right, you would be having to build this full request. Like I don't want to say the title, description and all again. I just want to say, the status is it is done. Okay, I want to say just this. But if I send this into put, it will fail. It will just set everything else to null, right? Because you didn't give those values. So that is why you have the function called patch. Okay, so let me undo all this. And let's write patch now. Okay, so in patch you can say I'm going to just change the status. Okay, so let's make a patch call. Where is task? We'll start with service. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll copy this full thing. No, I'll just write a new thing. Okay, it's going to be confusing to edit that whole thing. So public task update status, or like update task status by ID. Okay, and I'll pass in the ID of the task, and then I'll also pass the status as a enumerator. Okay, status, new status, and the status is coming from my Fastorial TODOs type status. Okay, fine. And what you have to do is kind of the same thing what we did here. First thing we have to do is check if the task exists for the given ID. Okay, by doing this, and then if it's empty, you throw an illegal argument exception, and then you get the old task. Okay, let's do this much first. Okay, fine. So you got all of this, and you get the old task also, right? So till this is clear, right? Now what we'll do next is you just say old task dot set priority to whatever the new, sorry, not set priority, set status to what are the new status that they give, right? Okay, you just set that and you save it. That's it. So you just do repo dot save, and then you give the old task. I mean, it's not old task anymore. It's like I'll just call it task. Okay. So when you save it, it will give you another task, like the new task or like updated task. I'll just return it. Fine. It's so simple. So you are supposed to, update only the status. So what you're doing is you're doing the boilerplate to find the old task. Okay. You can even, you got it. So you're doing the boilerplate to get the old task. Then you're updating only the status of it. Okay. Just now I remembered. So not only the status, remember that you have to also update the current time. Okay. So let me do that also, because whenever an update happens, you have to update the current time also, right? Fine. So you update the status, update the current time. I mean, like update the updated at time to current time, and then you push the updated item into the DB with repo.save. Okay. Okay, this should work. Okay, let me write the controller also. In the controller, I should write a patch mapping. So patch mapping. Okay, and it's going to be almost the same as the put mapping, but the only thing that will change is I'll end it with status. Okay, is it status? Yeah, status. Okay, and public response entity of task. Okay, and I will call this as update task status. Okay, and I will get a long ID. Okay, and I will get a I'll get a this thing itself. What is it called? Yeah, request body of task request. Okay, but in the task request, I'll get only the status. I'll not get anything else. Okay, fine. So here what I'll do is svc dot update task status by ID, right? In that I'll pass the ID, and I'll do request dot get status. I mean, first one, right? I'll just do request dot get status. Oops. Okay. When I do an update, I'll get a new task, right? So new task or like updated task. Okay. Now I'll just return the updated task as a response entity. So I'll say return response entity dot okay, and I'll pass this new item. Okay, so if you see, this is already fine, but only thing is if the task was not found, I should return a 404, right? So same like this. I'll just copy paste this try catch here. So just like how in the put mapping, if a task is not found, we just return 404, right? Similarly here also, when we are trying to patch a task, like update the status of the task, if it is not found, then we return a 404. Okay, so this I think should be done. Let me restart the server, and I'll go back here. Let me clone the request, and I'll say update status. Okay. Okay, so here the request will be ID. Okay, you have API task ID and then slash status. Okay, that is one change. Another change is the method is, or like the request type is patch. Okay, and in the body, you can give all of this, but the body will simply ignore that, right? Because if you see from the request body, you are just getting status only. So it doesn't matter if you give all of this, it will ignore it. I'll just remove all of this and I'll keep only this. Okay, status. Fine. So let's take one task. Okay, let's take task number 5. Let me see. So task number 5's priority is currently medium. Okay, what I'll do is I'll change it to low. Okay, oh, sorry, not priority. What is it? Task 5 status is to do. I'll change it to done. Okay, I'll change it to done. Fine, I mark the status as done. Let me fire the request. Okay, it says that the status changed to done, and you see none of the other fields became null, like how we saw in the put request, right? Only the status updated to done, and if you see the updated at time also got updated. So it was created at 10:58 and the updated time changed to 11:52. Now let's go back to get task and fire the request again. So you see, hey, what did we change? Oh, we changed for 4. Let me change for 5. Okay, for 5 let me change it. It moved to done, and if I get the task here for ID 5, it moved to done. Okay, so with that, patch is also done. Okay, so hope that is clear. So if you guys have any questions so far or anything, just let me know. How long has the stream been running? Oh, it's almost 2 hours, right? Okay, so we'll take one more break. Okay, and we will come back to it. Fine. So what else is left? There is only delete and get left. Okay, so these are like small tiny items. Okay, we'll just finish in like 15 minutes. Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll continue. Okay, so if you guys have any questions meanwhile, just post it in the chat. I will come back and respond. Fine, see you. Okay, fine. So welcome back, and let's continue. So we finished with patch status, right? Let's do delete next. Okay. So delete is a simple, what do you say? Yeah, simple endpoint where you just delete a task by its ID. Okay, that's it. Nothing fancy. Okay, so what we can do, we go to the service. Always bottom up, right? So finish the service first, then do the controller. So here I'll write what do you say? So in here they're asking just delete by ID and return 204 no content. Decide between the hard delete and soft delete. No, this is, well, just hard delete for now. Okay. Soft delete is something like, you mark it as deleted, but the item still stays in the DB. Okay. But we are doing a, hard delete. Fine. We just completely remove it from the database. Okay. So there is one more thing which we can do. Whenever you delete an item, it's usually nice if the last status of the item is available in the delete endpoint, but they haven't asked that, so I'll just leave it. For example, let's say in future we need that, when we are implementing the front end, we will come back and do that. Okay, so it's just like good practice kind of. Okay, so let's just do a normal delete then. So I'll just say public, or I'll just do boolean. Okay, boolean delete by ID. Okay, so the boolean will say whether the request got deleted or not. Yes, I'll get the task got deleted or not. So long ID, and what I'll do is repo dot delete. Oh, the delete actually needs a task entity. Okay, so what we'll do, we will find the task first. Okay, so all this stuff, get task by ID. This is like a boilerplate now. So yeah, so we'll get the task, the existing task by ID. Then if it's empty, we'll just so in this case, if it's empty, we don't do anything, we just return false. Okay, that nothing was deleted. If it is actually there, then we take the task and delete it. Okay, and I don't know if delete returns anything. Delete function itself returns void only. So here we'll return true. Okay, so regardless of something got deleted or not, we don't care. If you are trying to delete something and it was not there in the DB, we don't care. We just say, okay, it got deleted, that's it, right? So in the controller, what we'll do is, regardless of the response, we'll just say it got deleted. Fine. So you can already guess it, it's called delete mapping. Okay, and this is the same endpoint almost. This status part won't be there. You just give up to the ID of what you want to delete, and then it's public. What do you say? Let's do one thing. We will, just because we have the task at hand, I'll just copy this and return the task itself. Okay, and I'll change the method return type also to task. Okay, and if there is no task, I'll just return null. Okay, because it's not a deal breaker if task is not found when you're trying to delete. Okay, so here I'll come and I'll say the same response type. Okay, and I'll say delete task by ID. Okay, and in here the path variable long ID as usual, I'll copy and paste it here, and in here in the body I'll just do service, the task service dot delete by ID. Okay, and I'll pass the ID. Okay, now that function itself gives you a deleted task data. Okay, so this will be the deleted task. This doesn't exist in the DB anymore, but we have a reference of it one last time. Okay, so that if people want to do something else with the deleted task, you want, after deleting a task, you want to show a message saying by study course task was deleted. So you want to say get the title of the task and say the task with this title got deleted. So in that case, how can you do that? You if you return this task data, return this, then it will, the people can figure it out with that. So that is like a helper thing. Okay, so here I'll do return response entity dot status, and they said to give a status code of 204. Apparently it's no content. I am hearing this status code for the first time. So anything with 2 and then XX means that successful. So we are going to say that it was successfully deleted. Okay, so 204, and then in the body we give the deleted task. Okay, fine. Okay, so two paths here. If a task was found and deleted, it will respond to you with the actual data of the task that was deleted. But if not if the task that we are looking for was not found, then it will simply return null in the body. Okay, nothing else will be there. Okay, so let's restart this. Okay, and let me go back to Bruno and create the delete request. So I'll clone the one of the requests. I'll clone the put request. Okay, I mean get request. I'll clone this, and then I'll say delete task by ID. Okay, clone it, and in delete task, first thing is I have to change the method option to delete, and then the request is the same. There is no body. Okay, no body, and in params I'll try to delete item with ID 5. Okay, so let me send the request, and it didn't respond with anything, which is weird because 5 was there. Let me try with something I know exists. Okay, let me try with 4. I'll send this. Okay, so I have something with 4. Let me go back to delete and try to delete 4. Send this. It doesn't return anything. I don't know why. Okay, maybe delete is not supposed to return anything. I have no idea. Let me Google, Perplexity, ask Perplexity. Why does the response have no body even when I am sending the deleted entity data? It's because of the HTTP status code no content. So according to HTTP specification, the 204 no content status must not include a response body. Oh, so that is the problem. So okay, so yeah, even if so what is happening is if you send the response code as 204, then HTTP specification says that it should not include a response body. Okay, so even if you are trying to send a response body as the deleted task, it's not accepting it. Okay, so I don't know if there is a if it's saying if you really want the body, then send a 200, but that's not the correct status code that we want. So what we will do is if you want to indicate no content, use 204, but do not provide a body. Okay, so what we can, we'll just leave it like this itself. It's just that you won't see the deleted item in the get the delete request, but in future, let's say you want to log here, like log dot write a log saying that somebody deleted this task, then you can have it for logging purposes. Okay, so that's all it is there. And one more thing, just to make sure that the deletion happened. So I deleted number 4 now, right? I'll go back to get and I'll try to get number 4, ID number 4, and it should say 404, right? It's not found anymore, which means it got deleted. Okay, so in delete, if I try to delete again, it will simply give 204 again. Okay, it doesn't do anything because 4 is not there, so it doesn't matter. So I'm actually clicking this execute button. So how many other times I try to click, it will just return 204 over and over. Okay, it won't show any error because it got deleted again. Okay, so with that, delete is done. It's a simple one. And the last one is get API tasks. So it says return a pageable list with optional filters and sorting. Okay, so this is going to be complicated. with pagination, filtering, and sorting, right? So what we'll do is we'll end this stream here. Okay, we will do this complicated items with in a new stream, because you can't do this just with the framework as it is. Okay, so you have to do some extra steps. Okay, and we are already past like the 2 hour mark. We try to keep our streams under 2 hours. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. If you guys have any questions, I'll just give a minute or two. You guys can ask questions. If not, we will end the stream. Okay, so I will commit the code that we did so far. Okay, meanwhile you guys can ask questions. Okay, I see there are no questions, so let's end the stream here. Thank you for joining. I will schedule the next stream maybe like half an hour ago. I mean half an hour before when the stream happens. So if you guys want to, get a notification, just subscribe, okay, and hit the bell icon. Okay, so thank you guys for joining. See you guys in the next one. Okay, bye.